Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm doing great. Finally, we're here. We did it. Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it. I'm feeling great, man. Great. Thank you so much for having me. Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay. 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 Okay, cool. Now? Okay. Hello, my name is Jeff Woolwine. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been really seeing these lights ever since I was a kid. I can remember, playing catch football with my dad outside my front yard, and there'd be an orb in the sky. And sometimes we would see lights in the sky too. And it was funny too because when I was in the fifth grade, one of my best friends was a Native American boy, and I went to school the next day, and I'm like, "Did you see that light in the sky last night?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "My grandfather says that those lights live in the mountains over there," and he points to the white pink mountain. And being a kid, you're like, "Well, okay, cool." You go on your merry way. But later on, as you continue to see these things in the sky day after day after day, it really made me go on a hunt, on a quest to find out what is really going on here in our Phoenix skies. And I believe I have discovered some answers, um, not only for my well-being, because I wanted to know. This is the reason why we're talking today, is because I was doing it for my personal, satisfaction, my personal stuff, and I was going down this road, right, thinking one thing where everybody else was talking one thing, but the more and more I investigated it, the more and more I hiked on South Mountain, and the more and more I did research and understanding the rock drawings, the Native American interpretations of the rock drawings. I'm sorry, but the credibility was taking me down a different road. And I'm sorry, I have to go with what we can prove, what the credibility is, and it's something completely different. I started this in 2000, well actually in 2004. Sure thing. Okay, okay, okay. So I just say my name again, and then what? Okay, okay, yeah, because I can ramble, man. I can go on. It's 20 years of research, so yeah, I got a lot of. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Okay, okay, cool. Hello, my name is Jeff Woolwine. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I have been seeing the Phoenix lights and other strange things in the sky ever since I was a kid, here in this Valley of the Sun. Okay, so I was I've been seeing these things in the sky, And in the summer of 2004, I got word that the lights were back here in Phoenix, Arizona. So during my research on the Phoenix lights, I knew that the lights mostly hung out on the east side of South Mountain. Now, the original 1997 Phoenix lights occurred on the west side, but there was reports of more activity on the east side of South Mountain. So I went on a hunch, I went on a guess, and my son and I, we moved to the east side of Phoenix, and lo and behold, it didn't take very long. I saw these two orange amber lights out in the distance. And where were they going? They were heading towards South Mountain. Well, to make a long story short, I chased them, and I ended up on a set of bleachers at a college, and it was overlooking the valley. And so I sat there the whole summer of 2004, and I videotaped these Phoenix lights over a major spot the whole summer of 2004 on the east side of South Mountain. Now, this spot is very significant also because this was an electrical power plant. These lights were hanging over a power plant that bored down into a fault line that South Mountain was created. And I soon realized that these lights were actually going to this power source, going to this energy source. And so the sighting that we're originally talking about tonight was right over that power plant. And, you know, I was seeing them weeks and a few months before this sighting. And it was really spectacular. It was really incredible on what was going on out there. Oh wow, it's amazing, you know, because you're out there and you're watching, and these things just magically appear in the sky. There's no airplanes dropping these things out. There's no explanation on why these things are here. These things appear in the sky, and you know, when you first see them, your mind is like at awe because you don't know really what you're looking at. You're trying to explain this, but there's really no explanation. These things are there. They're bright orange amber lights, and they're in my opinion, they're in control. They know what is going on. They know who's watching them. They know who's not watching them. In my opinion, in studying these things for so long, they're intelligent lights. The more and more I investigated these things, I soon learned that these are not crafts that we are dealing with, but each point of light is a type of energy, like a light being. They're living entities, in my opinion. Yes, you know, much like the fireflies or the lightning bugs, you know how they light up. Well, that's how these things are created. This is another living being, a living entity that happens to light up. And you know, if they're absorbing the energy out there, of course they're gonna you know, absorb energy and light. So yes, they're lighting up and they're absorbing that energy, not only about the fault line on South Mountain, but that power plant there. You know, that's a great question. Just as the oceanographers are finding new species of life below the ocean, this is a new species of life above the ocean. And the more studies I did on this, you know, these things have always been with us. Instead of extraterrestrial, I'm looking at more of interterrestrial. I believe that these things have always been here, and this is their home also. You know, no, you know, you're not getting any feeling over it. Just the spectacular wow. You know, that is amazing what you're looking at, what you're seeing. There's no fear. It's just incredible that these things are there and there's no explanation. There's no reason or cause for it. So. Normally those things hang in the sky anywhere from like 5 to maybe 8 minutes, not too long sometimes, and then they change. Like we'll get 3 lights over here, and then 2 will go away, and then two more will appear in front of us. And then sometimes they'll just appear and then disappear. So there's really no time limit on these things. But majority of the time, I'm catching them between like maybe anywhere from 5 to 6 minutes tops. That's a good question. I have to go back and look at the video because I have hundreds of videos and I can't remember. I'd have to replay it, so I'm sorry, I don't know. Okay. Okay, so once I discovered this area, this college point, and it had a set of bleachers. I mean, I was up there the whole summer of 2004, and I had my 10-year-old son with me, and he brought a friend along with him also. And so we would go up on those bleachers, and I would set my camera up and get ready to film them. And it was pretty interesting too, because there was times when there was football games going on at the bleachers, because it was a stadium, correct? And everybody was looking at the game, but yet my camera was looking off in the distance, watching these lights, right? And so on this particular sighting, it was a calm night. There wasn't any wind. There wasn't anything to distract them, or but even still, I've seen them in windy days, and they're just stationary. They're not moving. They're there. Nothing is making them leave, except the other people who are watching these things also. And I don't know if we want to talk about that, but yes, there is somebody else watching these things. Going into this, I was thinking spaceships, technology, outer space, things like that, flying saucers, crafts. The more and more I studied it, the more and more I watched them, the more and more I studied the rock art and the Native American myths on what they're talking about on these beings. I soon realized that it was not crafts that we were dealing with, that these things were alive. These things had intelligence. They knew what they were doing, and they knew who was watching them and who wasn't watching them. This is how they're getting away with being in the skies and not being noticed. They're very stealthy, they're very quiet. They don't cast any shadows, they don't make any noise. The only way that you're going to be able to see them in the sky is if you actually look up and notice them. And then because people might be thinking another way, they see these lights and they might mistake them for something else. And that's another thing too. So I think it's really time to start studying what's really here, and understanding our past, understanding the rock art. Because I find it fascinating that for years It was just a theory on how the Native Americans were seeing and carving UFOs on the mountains around Phoenix, Arizona. But now we can actually prove it. Now there is proof that yes, these carvings on the mountains around Phoenix, Arizona, especially South Mountain, are prehistoric UFO photographs. It's very fascinating on these rock arts. Now, we find some rock art drawings out there that resemble just weird shapes, and the archaeologist likes to call them anthropomorphs. And that's what I like to call a lot of my sightings, is because they're changing shape. They're shape shifters. And there's so many references to these stick-figure men or people looking up at things in the sky, whether it's lights, whether it's orbs, whether it's flying diamonds, or whether it's flying serpents. We're talking the Quetzalcoatl. So it's fascinating. The same things that we're dealing with in Mexico, as far as the feathered serpent, is I'm finding the exact same type of carvings and stories I'm finding here in Phoenix, Arizona, as far as the petroglyphs. And so it's very compelling that when you're looking at a stick figure man carving, and he's got an orb above his head. I mean, how more clear can you get than that? There's a lot of sightings there when these lights were morphed into two. They will split into two. And then there's other sightings where a light will merge with another light and then merge out of that light. And then sometimes it would, proceed to go on the ground there. It would go down. So yeah, sometimes these lights, they morph. They're anthropomorphs. They're changing shape. There'll be one light, and it will go into two lights. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it was fascinating when this light was in the sky, and we all witnessed it merge into two lights, and very soft, very slowly. It was incredible on what we were seeing, and it was really amazing, and it was very intense and very spectacular, and you're just at awe because you don't understand what it is. It's clearly there. It's clearly morphing. It's changing shape. Now there's two, and it was really amazing to see. Awesome question. So, in studying the reason why they are hanging around Phoenix, Arizona so much is because of the energy. Now, earlier we talked about how these lights, the ones that we're talking about tonight, is hanging over a power plant. Well, that power plant is bored down into an energy system, into a fault line. And that's what South Mountain is resting on top of this fault line. And this is the secret, this is the key to these lights, is South Mountain is the source because of its energy. They are here because of the energy source. They are absorbing the energy. Now, in studying the rock art and studying the light and shadow panels, where the sun, during the equinox and the solstice, when the sun aligns with certain rock art drawings or casts a shadow on these spiral doorways, the archaeologist likes to tell us, well, there's changing seasons and it's time to plant corn. That has nothing to do with planting corn. It has everything to do with when these beings will return into this mountain. So it was a pattern. The first year I was watching these things, it seemed like they came on certain times of month, on certain times of days, and certain times of times. And then they were gone on certain times of month. And then they would come back on certain times of month. The next year, it repeated itself. The third year, it repeated itself. And it coexisted with the sun, with the energy. It coexisted with the tracking of the sun, the equinox and the solstice, and so on and so on. So it's a combination of the fault line and the sun, the tracking of the sun on when to predict these lights will be back. So now the sun is in perfect alignment with the energy source over at Phoenix, Arizona. And so now we are getting sightings. We are getting light sightings in Phoenix right now. You know, it's fascinating. The 1997 Phoenix lights, you know, those lights, what we can prove now, and what we can prove are lights on the west side of South Mountain. Were they in a V shape? Were they in an arc? Yes. They were actually, when you look at it, they were connecting a line between South Mountain and the mountain next to it called the Australia Mountain. And in Spanish, Australia means star. So basically, they did a chain link between the Australia and South Mountain on the west side. Were they moving over the city? There's no evidence of this. We have to talk about what we can prove. And I know there's a lot of talk on how a V-shaped craft went over the city of Phoenix. I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying it's been over 20 years and there's no evidence of this. The evidence that we do have is lights on the west side of South Mountain. Oh, I was born with these things. I mean, I'm a total believer. You know, this is what made me, this is why we're talking today, is because I went on a quest, on a hunt, to find out my own answers. Not to write a book, not to get on TV, not to do anything else. I wanted to know what was going on for my own self. Because everywhere I went, I was seeing these things in the sky. And there was a lot of theories and interpretations on what these things were, but nothing was really adding up. You know, it's fascinating too. I like to look at the 3 points of credibility. One, we can read about these things from 6,000 to 7,000 years ago in old scrolls and Anunnaki tablets, things like that. Then we can go out on the mountains here and we can see the prehistoric photographs of what these scrolls are talking about. And the third point of credibility, now we're seeing them in our skies for our own self. And I really believe that the petroglyphs are meant for our generation. They are meant for us to understand. Because it's our generation that are seeing these things in the skies today. So we must find out what is going on in our world, in our history. And these petroglyphs has the answers. They tell us. If you just sit down with an open mind and get rid of all of your conspiracy thoughts and all this stuff, and really sit down and try to understand what the Native Americans are saying to us, because they've been telling us all these years. You know, they've been telling us, look, these things are here with us. Holy cow, right. You know, I mean, once I dedicated my life to that. You know, after started in 2004, I went on a hunt. You know, and the more and more I watched them, and the more and more I understood what they were. I mean, I did a 180 on life. I look at things completely different now, and that's what happens when you see them all the time, and they're flying by your window, and you see them on the rock, and you understand their history. I mean, it changes your life, you know. And you just don't look at things the same anymore because you now know that there's something else with us, that there is something here that has always been here, and it's just been either covered up, not talked about anymore, but it's here. There is something here, and it's incredible. And I think more study needs to be done into this. I think more understanding of what the Native Americans are telling us about these things, along with their prehistoric photographs carved on the mountains. That's a good question. You know, for years, when I first came public with this, you know, when I did the pilot for the UFO Hunter show, and I did articles for magazines, and I started making the news and all this stuff. Yeah, the critics are going to hit you, you know, and it did bother me for a while. But then I started to think, well, you know what? If they saw it for themselves, if they would see what I'm seeing, if they would witness the history of what I'm finding out here, if they would just see for their own selves, then they would, you know, change their mind with us. But you know, it's always going to happen. There's always going to be critics out there, and that's fine, because you have to be a believer and a skeptic at the same time. So not everything is in the sky is a UFO, you know. So we have to understand. We have to learn what is man-made, what is not man-made, and what is technically called a UFO or a UAP. What is the definition? Before you go into this type of research, you must first study what's natural. You must go out there and videotape an airplane, videotape a flare, videotape a balloon, videotape all this stuff, drones, kites, birds, trash. Understand it. See it for yourself. See what it looks like on camera. Because then you'll recognize it. Because then when you see it, you're going to say, oh, that's a piece of plate, that's a piece of paper, that's a paper. Oh, that's an airplane. That's a star, that's a planet. But wait a minute. Now here's something I haven't seen before, right? It's changing, it's morphing, it's doing weird stuff. That is something, you know? And so that is how... if you really want to come into this, that's how the skeptics need to look at these things, is first you understand what's normal, and then when you see something that's not normal, then you can say, yes, that is something that is unidentified, it's in the sky, and it's flying, and it's something. I hope that answers it. Oh, sure. You know, when I was videotaping these lights in 2004, I was making the news. I did about 4 news appearances, maybe 4 or 5 news appearances. And the end result was they got the military involved. And they said that we're all seeing flares 150 miles away in Tucson. And that was just bogus, because these lights are right here in the city. They were right there next to South Mountain. And there wasn't any airplanes dropping them out. These things just magically appeared in the sky. And so when they're like saying, oh, they're flares, or they're balloons, or, you know, well, that's just fine. That's going to happen. But to the people who understand what's really here, they're going to understand that this is not a flare, this is not a balloon, this is not trash, this is not what they're trying to make it to be, that this is really something here. Wow, that's heavy. We're going to get into something heavy. So, when you look at the history of the Hohokam Indians, Hohokam is a Pima name for the people who are gone, the people who are missing, the people who got taken away. Because the Hohokam people lived here for 1,000 years, and they obviously saw the Phoenix Lights, and they recorded them on the rocks. They lived here for 1,000 years, and then all of a sudden they disappeared from history. Not only this civilization, but all other tribes around the world that are erecting pyramids, that are carving spirals, that are carving anthropomorphs. All these tribes around the world, they were masters of their land for 1,000 years, and then all of a sudden they disappeared from history with no trace. Now the archaeologist wants to say, well, they simply left because of drought. Well, if that's the case, then where did they go? There is no evidence on where these people went. They were masters of their land here, and then they just disappeared with no trace. And when you go onto the rock art, when you understand the petroglyphs, you will see that the Phoenix Lights and some of these things that we see in the skies today was responsible for mankind's disappearance. That is the reason why, in my opinion, there will never be a disclosure. I believe the government does know what's going on. This is why this has been hush-hush for so many years. It's because they don't want to let the people know what happened to the last civilization who saw the Phoenix Light, who actually interacted with the Phoenix Lights, interacted with these beings, who actually these beings taught these people how to survive. Because when they first arrived here, they didn't know how to live. So the stories go on to say the spirits. Does it say crafts? No, it says the spirits from the earth and sky came down from the sky, up from the ground, and they taught these people how to survive. And in return, they worshiped these things as gods. They thought these things were their gods. And so yes, sacrificing, I found sacrificing altars on South Mountain was going on here. Not only the Hohokams were here, but also the Mayans. And it's only natural that, you know, Arizona was once a part of Mexico. So yes, the Mayans were here in Phoenix, Arizona also. I find many, many rock art from the Mayans. And sacrificing was going on. And so the story goes to say, the oral tradition, what the Native Americans say, is that when the sacrificing stopped, that's when things started to dry up. Because back then, Arizona, Phoenix wasn't a dried up desert. It was a tropical-like landscape. And we can see evidence from dried up waterfalls coming down the mountain, especially South Mountain. There was plenty of water here. But the tradition says that when the sacrificing stops for some reason, that's when things started to dry up. And it displeased, I guess you could say, the Phoenix Lights, the gods, the things in the sky. And it led to their downfall. Now some would say that the devil came from the east and took these people up and took them away. Now this coincides with what the rock art is showing, the prehistoric photographs. It's showing a light, an orb in the sky coming down and picking up a man. And sometimes they would actually like play in the sky with men. And then sometimes they bring him down, then sometimes they would just carry him off and with no, they would never come back. The story of Phoenix, Arizona, this is This is the story of Phoenix. That when these things started to happen, there were people that were afraid, and they ran in caves, right? Because they saw what was going on, and they ran in the caves. And when it was all over with, they were afraid. They were terrified, and they knew that if they were going to continue to live in this valley of the sun, that eventually they would have to go back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. So the legends say that they buried all the gold in tombs on South Mountain. And they vowed never to come back and live in this valley of the sun, now known as Phoenix, Arizona. They left this valley. They cursed this valley. And they went back to their homeland, back to Mexico. And for 400 years, nobody lived in this desert. There were Native American tribes on the outskirts of the valley. And they saw the lights, and they saw the orbs, and they saw these things, and they were afraid because they knew that their ancestors got taken away by these things, that this was not a good thing. And so for 400 years it was dried up. So when Jack Swelling came over, he was the first guy to actually start farming again. He saw the canal systems that the Hohokams made. He saw the great farmland. He saw the Hogans and the Native American pods. Everything was left there because they simply vanished. Now, when me and you moved, we take our belongings with us, but yet the Hohokams didn't. They left everything behind and simply vanished off the face of the earth. So when civilization started to grow again in this valley, everything was still there. The canals, the houses, everything, and it started over. And this is why they call this valley Phoenix, is because the fiery bird rose out from the formal civilization. But what was that formal civilization? They're not telling you that. They're not telling you, this formal civilization interacted with giants, interacted with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, interacted with these Phoenix lights. It's a whole completely different story on what the archaeologists are telling us, on what history is trying to tell us. It's something completely different. And when you actually look at the evidence, it all makes sense. I talk a lot about Genesis 6. And, it's really fascinating because it tells us that these things came down to earth. And the people back then worshiped these things as gods. And some of these things took some of the wives of men and out forth bore giants, the Nephilim. That is the exact same story that's carved on South Mountain. And that's why I said in the beginning, it's fascinating how we can read about these things, and now we can come out on the mountains and we can see the prehistoric photographs of what these scrolls were saying. In my opinion, this is the biggest conspiracy of all time. This is the world's conspiracy. This has been covered up for hundreds and hundreds of years because it is not a good thing. It's not peace, love, and light. It's holy cow. It's time to start waking up, and something catastrophic is going to happen. Now, the Native Americans say we have many worlds, right? Because each time men have messed up. Some say it's fourth world, some say it's fifth world. There's many different differentiations on many different tribes. But it all boils down to, the world has changed. And every time the world changes, man needs something to survive. And that's exactly what the Hohokams happens here. They needed these things to survive. So nobody knows when the time is going to happen. Nobody knows. Only the Great Spirit knows when the time is going to happen. But they can see the prophecy going on. They can see what's leading up to this next world. So what are they doing? They're watchers in the sky now. They are simply watching us. They're waiting. The more mankind makes war with each other, the more and more we're going to start seeing these things. Because they're waiting for mankind to see them once again, they're waiting for mankind to need them once again. Because right now we don't need them. If one came down, landed on the White House lawn and says, "Hey, here I am," it'll be front page news for a week or two, but then everybody's got to go back to their life. So we don't need them. They're waiting for us to need them once again. So if there's no food, there's no water, there's air contamination, maybe a nuclear war, things like that, the people who survived this Holocaust, you're going to see these lights. One's going to come down. He's going to anthropomorph into a man, just like what the petroglyphs are showing out here on the rocks, because they've done it before in history. They're going to make themselves look like a human, and they're going to say, "Here I am. I'm the one that you've been waiting for 2,000 to 3,000 years. I can clean up the air. I can do miracles. I can fly. I can do all this stuff. I'm your God. Worship me." And it's going to start all over again. That's what I've been kind of heading towards. Like I said, when I first went into this, I'm going down this road, but the evidence is taking me down another road, and it's scary, and I understand why this is a cover-up here. Because just think of it. If everybody knew that the Phoenix Lights were the main cause and reason for the Holocaunt people's disappearance, how many people would stay in that valley? If the government came out and said, "Hey guys, guess what? The Phoenix Lights took the Holocaunt people away. Isn't that great?" How many people would stay in that valley? How many people would work in that valley? You know, if they knew what was really going on here in our own backyard. Because it's fascinating. The scientists and all these ufologists, they're looking for species on the outskirts of our planet. They're looking for UFOs, you know, intelligent life on the outskirts of our planet. But I think it's time to start looking in our own backyard, because they've been here the whole time. And it's heavy, it's real heavy, it's really deep, it's dark, but this is the evidence that I'm finding here. It is, it's heavy, it's heavy. It is. So I was filming a lot of lights in 2004, and the news media picked up on what I was doing. And so we did a lot of news reports, and then at the end result, they said that we were seeing flares and things like that. And so, but this particular sighting here was actually buried in my archives for years. I just now started to release some of my never seen before footage on the Phoenix Lights and some of the other things I've been filming on YouTube. And so once that, you know, particular sighting made it to the internet after all these years, you know, it kind of blew up. You know, it's great because we need to show what's really going on here. So when somebody sees it, like on the internet or on the news or something like that, it's in their subconscious now. So whenever they see it from themselves, their subconscious is going to say, wait a minute, I saw that, you know, over here, you know, and that's exactly what's going on now. So it's important for the people who are seeing these things to get this information out so other people know what to look for. I already said a lot, so, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. The things in the sky that we see today, this is part of our history. These things have been witnessed before. And we really need to take a look at what the formal civilizations have left behind for us. Because these things in the sky and what's recorded on the rocks thousands of years ago is for us to understand what's really here. So we need to take a look at what the first formal civilization has said about these things, and understand the rock art, understand what they've been trying to tell us all along. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Cool, thank you. I sent Ashley a couple more videos of the rock art, and then the thing in the sky that's the rock art in the sky, the petroglyphs in the sky. So I sent her a couple of videos and some more photographs. So you wanted to touch base on her with that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, keep an eye on my UFO or my Facebook page or my YouTube channel because there's all kinds of videos on there, man. So if you're ever bored and you're going through it and you're like, hey, let's talk about that, let me know. Because I've got tons of stuff. So lots of stuff. Great, great. Thank you. It was great meeting you guys. Thank you so much. So what about this camera here? Do I just send it back, or what should I do with it? Yeah, okay. I was having trouble with it. I really didn't know what was going on, so I'm actually using a different camera that I had, so. Yeah, that's my movie screen. Yeah, I do lectures, I do paracons, and I do a UFO show, and I show my UFOs on the screen. So. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Whoa, we did it! We did it! Woo!